So in this video, we'll be heading up the 395 going north in Owens Valley and between the town of Long Pine and Independence, stopping at the Manzanar National Historic Site. Now, Manzanar is one of 10 World War II concentration camps in the U.S. that fabrically incarcerated more than 10,000 Japanese Americans, primarily from the West Coast. Now, we done took trips up the 395 so many times to so many different locations, and this has always been a stop we've managed to miss. So we're finally going to make it today and check out this National Historic Site. Pretty excited to see all the history in the Sierra Nevada area, and just follow me on this journey, y'all. So Manzanar was established June 1st, 1942, and closed on November 21st, 1945, 3 months after the war ended. Today, Manzanar is a National Historic Site managed by the National Park Service. So today we'll be learning about the history and incarceration, the forced removal, their camp life, their community life, and even the preservation of Manzanar National Historic Site. What was always interesting to me was the forced removal. It was following the attack on Pearl Harbor. The U.S. government issued an Order 9066, which led to their removal of Japanese Americans from their homes, and based on fear and distrust, despite no evidence. Now, the camp life, at its peak, Manzanar held over 10,000 individuals, including children and elderly. Now, their community life you can learn a lot from. Like, despite their hardship, they established their own community with a camp, creating consumer cooperatives, a newspaper, and organizing their own internal government and services. Now that I officially made it in, got my map, walked through their merch store, let's go ahead and start the tour. But there is a 10-minute video I watch on this journey, but I'll just play the voiceover so you guys can hear it while I'm doing my walkthrough. Check it out.
With every smash, it just broke her heart.
We could only take what we could carry.
I can remember things we didn't take, like our dog Ginger. We were not allowed to take pets.
We walked with our suitcases to this train depot, and there were guards with rifles.
They had 2 MPs on each side, and they had bayonets on their thing. Why they have bayonets, I'll never know.
The morning we left, it was sprinkling. My sister had overheard this lady say, "Look at, even the heavens are crying for us."
The great trek begins. A Jap caravan heads for the government's war relocation project in the Owens Valley, a voluntary migration. It's in no sense a concentration camp, but a city with its front yard in the snow-peaked Sierra Nevadas. Here, eventually, 12,000 will live and work.
Tense of suspicion.
Evacuation. More than 100,000 men, women, and children, all of Japanese ancestry, removed from their homes in the Pacific Coast states to wartime communities established in out-of-the-way places. Their evacuation did not imply individual disloyalty, but was ordered to reduce a military hazard at a time when danger of invasion was great.
As a continuance of the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which was the first law to restrict U.S. immigration and specifically a prohibition on Chinese laborers. The Asian Exclusion Act was passed as part of the Immigration Act of 1924, a race-specific legislation which barred additional immigration from Asian countries, including Japan, and also declared Asians ineligible for naturalization, leaving Asian immigrants in America unable to become citizens and therefore unable to own land. It was considered the most stringent U.S. immigration policy in the nation's history up until that time.
You are about to see the second of 3 films which have been made to help us size up our enemy, Japan. To beat the Japanese and to do the job thoroughly, we have got to understand them thoroughly. The Japanese are not easy to know. I've lived among them for 10 years. And I can testify that they are as different from ourselves as any people on this planet.
When I asked my mother, why are we here? Why are we in this prison? She said simply, it's because we're Japanese.
My father was an immigrant from Hiroshima in Japan. My mother was born here.
My father believed, like a lot of other immigrants, that you could make money in the United States.
My dad always used to say, nothing like America.
In 1882, the Emperor of Japan allowed the people of Japan to leave the home islands. And thus, the Japanese came to this country for economic opportunity.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
After the first few years, the Japanese immigrants were trying to get into other professions. And people were beginning to get worried about what they called a Japanese invasion.
My father could not buy land because he was not a citizen, but he also couldn't become a citizen.
My mother used to tell me that salesmen used to come to the door and she'd refuse to buy, and they say, why don't you go home, you damn Jap?
On December 7th, around 8 o'clock in the morning, Japanese airplanes bombed Pearl Harbor in Hawaii.
Since the unprovoked and dastardly attack, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
It was just a devastating day for all of us. We will never forget.
I went to volunteer, and they turned me down because they just didn't want any Japs.
General DeWitt was commanding general of the Western Area Defense Command. He's the one that said, a Jap's a Jap. And because I looked like the enemy, I was treated like the enemy.
We were cursed at and spit on. We were told to go back to the country where we came from. And I said, well, this is where I came from.
The FBI came and picked up my father immediately. It was just like the movies.
Right in the middle of the wedding reception, FBI came and arrested some of the people.
We had to turn in all our radios, shortwave, flashlights, guns, knives, whatever that they thought was contraband. President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066.
As Commander-in-Chief, I have directed that all measures be taken for our defense.
The order stated that the West Coast was to be considered a military area and persons of Japanese ancestry were to be removed and housed away from the West Coast.
There were 10 war relocation centers to which persons of Japanese ancestry were sent.
By the time the war was over, there were about 120,000 people affected.
The military and civilian agencies alike determined to do the job as a democracy should, with real consideration for the people involved.
Friends of mine had to leave Terminal Island, and those people had only 48 hours.
We just felt, well, it was something we had to do. I guess we considered our part for the war effort.
The restaurant, we just had to close up. We just padlocked it and got out.
People just come and say, well, I'll give you $1 for that, I'll give you $5.
Like $5 for a brand new refrigerator. We burned a lot of things.
My mom got mad and she just picked up these great big plates. She just smashed it right on the floor. With every smash, it just broke her heart.
We could only take what we could carry.
I can remember things we didn't take, like our dog Ginger. We were not allowed to take pets.
We walked with our suitcases to this train depot, and there were guards with rifles.
They had 2 MPs on each side, and they had bayonets on their thing. Why they have bayonets, I'll never know.
The morning we left, it was sprinkling. My sister had overheard this lady say, look at, even the heavens are crying for us.
The great trek begins. A Jap caravan heads for the government's war relocation project in the Owens Valley. A voluntary migration. It's in no sense a concentration camp, but a city with its front yard in the snow-peaked Sierra Nevadas. Here, eventually, 12,000 will live and work.
We were told that we are being evacuated so that the government can protect us. And the first thing that I had observed was that they had armament, not facing out, but facing in.
And I remember seeing the guard tower and the barbed wire fence. And this blew my mind to think that we were going to be behind those wires.
My mother and father lived at the time in the Owens Valley, and they saw the people getting off the buses. My mother said, I was so upset by that. These people don't belong there. They're American citizens.
They are not prisoners. They are not internees. They are merely dislocated people, the unwounded casualties of war.
I remember just seeing the rows of barracks, dirt all over, no plants or greenery.
Yes, do that next time. After this 10. After this 10.
The first thing that they told us to do was to grab a bag and put straws in the bag.
And that was our bed for that night.
But the first night, all of a sudden I realized that, my God, there are holes in the roof. I look up and I see the sky. I thought, my God, it's so beautiful.
And that night there was a pretty big windstorm. Well, next morning when I got up, I looked at my mattress. Right where my head was, it's still all white, but then the rest of it was all covered with sand.
Just a quick fact I learned: approximately 150 people died at the Manzanar incarceration camp during World War II, with most of the deceased cremated and their ashes held by the camp or returned to their families. Another thing I'll point out is the preservation of this camp is amazing, and just seeing some of the old hand tools and clocks and radios is something interesting to see just from that time frame, let alone just seeing some of the living conditions, some of the beds, and other things like that. But the accessories you see were pretty amazing.
Were evacuated from their homes in military zones. The majority of these are known to be loyal Americans.
Hello, men. This is Jay Wesley with your baseball scoreboard for the Tuesday game. The Yanks and the Cardinals are led 5 cinches from the World Series. There's a whale of a battle going on for second place in the two leagues. Yesterday in the upward prices give ammunition to labor's fight against fixed wages. Labor has pledged no strikes for the duration, but it's proved impossible to accomplish. As far as I'm concerned, no contracts are worth. I do not mean to resist all miners of this country, but I also do not mean to desert my obligations and responsibility as President of the United States. The stars and stripes will fly over the coal mine. I hope every miner will be at work. That's right.
So that video we just saw was the 1988 Civil Liberties Act. President Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act, which officially apologized for the internment and provided $20,000 in reparations to the surviving internees. Now, I tried to catch as much as I can. I took a lot of pictures so I can do a lot of reading myself later. But it's time to make our way outside, check out these camps outside, and also get these beautiful views of these mountains. Now that we're outside, we're more focusing on programs in focus. Children's education, adult education, preschools, organized by inmate teachers. Nursing schools or kindergarten began in the summer of 1942 and enrolled over 1,000 children in their first year, continuing until August 1945. Now, there's also sports. Manzanar sports, as you saw early on the tour, the baseball glove, the plate, keeping score, and they also have a basketball court, which has probably been upgraded a little bit and preserved. But at the time, basketball and baseball was a big thing out here. So like anybody else, they had their games and activities, they had their school, they had their room aboard, and even being incarcerated came together as a community to learn, to trade goods, to bring to the table as a community to uplift and better themselves, which I think is pretty commendable. And I think it's something good that everybody needs to take a look at and learn. So these places are very important, whether it's your culture or not. and I had to take a snapshot of this fine old school radio. Well, that's going to do it for this one. I got a lot to read. I took a lot of pictures, a lot of videos. Just keep in mind, you're going to need almost a half a day or full day. There's so much information, but I learned so much. Really cool place. If you have time, check it out. Remember to love life, cherish life. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.